hopefully by the end of the day, you won't feel like this with the project. So I'm just going to wait for it to pop up on the screen. Let's see, is it coming up there? No, it's not, because my thing is there. There we go. Have you seen this before? Notice the keyboard. So what did you notice about the keyboard?
Is it ancient?
It's not plugged in.
Yeah. Oh, it isn't, is it?
No. Do you see right here?
Yeah.
So hopefully by the end of the day you'll have some project knowledge that you won't feel like you have to smash your computer every time you feel something's not going wrong within the context of your project. So I'm hoping that this process helps you out a little bit with that. And so we're going to use some different funny videos like this throughout the day just to reinforce some of the learning pieces with that. So let's go to the first tab, and let's start to get into what some terms are and some words are and processes around project management. 'Cause there are specific project language that we need to use, so we do need to define these to get us going in the same place. So first off, let's start. What do you all think a project is? How would you define a project? And there's no right or wrong answer for this. I mean, if there's really wrong answers, then I'll tell you if it's really wrong. But there's no really, in terms of our discussion, there's no right or wrong. So how would you
beginning and end? It
absolutely
involves multiple factors, multiple people. Maybe.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily people, but
Yeah, I mean, it can be pretty small too.
Absolutely. So it does have a beginning and it can be small. It can be really big. So it could be, rebuilding the Bay Bridge is a really big project that's probably chunked down into a bunch of smaller projects, right?
probably have to manage like money or resources.
Absolutely. So there's usually money and resources and people involved with it. Time. There's always time involved with it as well. So it's not ongoing and repetitive. It's not an ongoing process. So we would consider that a program. So sometimes people in an organization will say, oh, this is our new project. I'm like, well, that's your training program. That's not a project. Every time you run a class, you could consider a class a project. But if you're doing it ongoingly and repetitive, there's nothing new or weird that could generally go wrong because you'll know what it is. So when we're talking projects, we're always talking about it's a temporary endeavor. It's unique. It usually hasn't been done before. You might have done something similar before to it. And hopefully you use that information to help you build your project plan, like what Laura said. But generally speaking, it's not going to be ongoing or repetitive, and you're not going to know what it looks like at the end. So if you turn the page, there's the official definition from the Project Management Body of Knowledge. So just turn your page over. So temporary endeavor, undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. So some of the characteristics you already mentioned. It is constrained by time, cost, scope, and quality. And we call that, and we'll talk about this a little more, we call that the triple constraint. So it's a triangle, we call it the triple constraint. We'll talk about what those pieces are in a sec.
Greg, how do you talk about optimization? Does optimization then lead to a future project around optimization, or?
Well, what are you meaning in terms of optimization?
So we've completed this project, and now we have this new product.
Right.
And so, but now we want to optimize who we can sell it to. We want to optimize how we...
Right, so you might decide to create a different project around how you're going to do that.
Okay.
But it wouldn't, you could build into your first project, so you're building a new process or a product or something, you want to optimize how you're going to use it. You could build that in to your project plan and keep it as part of that. But what do you all think is one of the most common things that happens in a project? So when you do your project from beginning to end, and let's see if you've tried out a new process, or you've developed a new procedure or something in the science work that you do. What do you think is one of the most common things that happens when the project ends? So all the people are on the project, the funding's done, the project ends.
Well, let me say.
Yeah.
It's never really finished.
Yeah, sometimes they
Name's
never
on,
really
the
end.
papers don't get written, like, it just, and then you return to try to finish and close, at least in
Yeah.
science, and it's like, so inefficient.
Yeah. So sometimes they don't get wrapped up.
Oh,
And
Yeah,
we're going to talk
remember.
about closing off a project and how to do that. And one of the other biggest things that happens is they don't get transferred to your business as usual. So by that I mean you've done a new project or process. So let's say, Mike, at your coffee shop you put in a new way you're going to track people's time.
Right.
So we say we're going to try this for 3 months, we're going to see how this works. And at the end of the 3 months, we'll make an assessment whether we're going to continue this way if y'all like self-scheduling or whatever. Let's say it's a self-scheduling thing. You're going to trust your staff to self-schedule. So at the end of the 3 months, the 3 months comes and goes, and often what will happen is either the project will drop, like let's say you sold the coffee shop and someone else took it up, the project will just drop and it doesn't have any organizational place to sit. So part of any good project is right at the beginning of the project you want to figure out where is this going to land? Who is going to own this when it's done? Where is it going to be? Because what happens is at the end of the project, everybody's done, the money's done, the calendar, the schedule's done, and then all of a sudden, you know, Jamie goes on holidays and the project's wrapped up, but we don't know who's going to own it. Where's it going to stay? Is it going to stay with Jamie? Is it going to stay with Elaine? Should it go to Mike? Should it go to Kim? Where should it go? And that should be started planning at the beginning, not at the end. And most of us wait till the end to think about what we're going to do with it.
does that have a role within the planning? Is there a,
Absolutely, because so let's say you're in a large organization like Cisco, and let's say they're working on a big IT project of some type, which they probably would be, and you want to start involving the people as to where this is going to reside earlier in the project. So let me give you an example of one I was on. I was on a project where I had to implement telemedicine equipment, which is equipment that people use who live in rural and remote communities to access healthcare. So you actually use two-way video to see your doctor. So it's really great if you live in the boonies and you can't get to a doctor really fast. You do a little video hookup and off you go. So we needed to plan at the beginning about that, who was going to own the equipment, who was going to monitor it, who was going to do the helpline at the beginning of the project, because when I finished and wrapped up, I needed to know who in the organization was going to do that. So that involved training the helpline staff, it involved dealing with the reporting people and planning that out. And what I had planned at the beginning, because it was a 3-year project, looked very different at the end. So you always want to build in, where is this going to go? Who's going to own it? What's going to happen at the end? Otherwise, it closes down, and and I can tell you, the bigger the organization, the more likelihood they've had great projects. The projects have had great outcomes, but nobody knows what happened to them. Very common to see that.